And so I was so upset, so frustrated, and I'm just like, this dude is better off to me dead than alive.
What's up, sweetie fam? Welcome back to my channel. I am Forever Patra Denise, produced by Zenny Production. This here is my sweet tea. Just because it's tea does not mean it's gossip. Hey, y'all, this is episode 4. Okay? The finale. Yes, finale of my baby mama story. We are just growing and glowing in the most unpregnant way. So, let's get right into it. But let me tell you this. If you have not watched episode 1, 2, and 3, you are not going to be on board with episode 4. So all those videos, the links are in the description. Just pause this, go to those videos, watch all 3. Okay? So and then come back. Don't forget that part, which is important. Come back so then you can know what the finale is about. So let's just get right into it. At that time, my house got broken into by my baby daddy. He stole some of my stuff. And so at that point, I felt unsafe. And so I found me a new, bigger place. I'm officially moving on. And this wasn't like a mutual conversation. Like, okay, we're done. It was just a presence. It's over. Finito. Bye-bye. Okay? And that's just where I was at. I didn't want to be in a relationship with him no more. Didn't want the mess. I didn't want the toxicity. I was moving on. But I still have my doughboy on the side. I'm moving on. Was it hard? It definitely was, because I never intended to be a single mother and to raise my son on my own. But I gotta do what I gotta do. Somehow he gets my new number. Okay? So he gets my new number, and I found out that he moved to Atlanta. His sister lived there, and she had lived there for years. Oldest sister lived there, and I didn't know that. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. He tells me he's working at some type of lead plant or something like that, which was cool too. I was like, okay, congratulations. I see, oh, you want to move away and now try to get a job and be the guy you're supposed to be, but be great. So he was like, since I'm working, I'm going to send you $150 a week. He was like, send you $150 a week for the baby. And I'm like, cool. So he was sending it through like Western Union or MoneyGram or whatever. Now, again, I told you I was living my best life. He was sending the money. I told you he started sending the money. But now people are reporting back to him like, oh, we seeing your baby mama in every party, every club, every woo-woo. So he called me back like, so you spending the money that I'm giving you on a party? First and foremost, my daddy don't even call me like that. Second of all, you ain't my man. Third of all, I have my own money. I been working. Okay? Been working. You don't call me about no money. Your son been having the latest everything. Every toy you can ever think of. He's well taken care of. So before you even send $150, my job been done. You know, I'm like, okay, in the beginning, I done already spent money on diapers, wipes, food, all this other stuff. So the $150, I'm like, okay, what can I spend with this $150? Okay, I'll save it, you know, yada, yada, yada. But then I realized, like, I'm the one that's losing. I don't have anything. So either I'm going to wait till he possibly send the money, or I'm going to spend my money. And if he does send the money, I'll use that on me. I mean, it's still going, my child is taken care of on a whole nother level. So but I didn't initially need to do that because I had a job and I was making good money. So I didn't need his money. So I'm going out, I'm having the best life. He's calling me, checking me like, listen, I heard you going out, you doing this, you grinding, you. And I'm like, excuse me. I don't have not nan boyfriend, nan man, nothing. Mind your business, please. What old dude say? You in my business? Don't do that. Don't do that. And so I had to check him like, first and foremost, let me get this all the way clear with you. You're not my man. You're my child's father. You pay for things on the back end, because on the front end, I stand up and handle my business. So whatever I choose to spend that money on, I'm going to spend it on, and you're going to be happy about it. So he stopped sending money. And I was like, okay, cool. He was like, well, I'll send one he need. Okay, fine. Doesn't matter to me because I'm still going to go out. He started sending, so it was like 1 month he would send clothes and shoes. And I was okay, thank you. After that, he didn't send anything else. October comes, beginning of October comes, he tells me that he was like, no, it was like the middle of October. He was like, listen, he knew I worked like flipped holidays. So if I work for Christmas, I get Thanksgiving off type of situation. So he asked me, he was like, okay, I'm here in Atlanta, like, I want to be with my son. I want to, and I know you're not going to just let him come by himself. So obviously you got to come too for Thanksgiving. Do you mind coming? If you have the holiday, do you mind coming? I said, I don't think that's a problem. I said, I don't mind coming. I said, as long as we have a separate space to sleep, I still want you in your child's life. Cool. He was like, okay, well, I was like, but are you going to pay for this? Because this wasn't a part of mine. Finances. He was like, I'm gonna pay for everything. I'm gonna pay for y'all to get there. When you come here, you're not gonna need no money, yada 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 yada. Now again, he was sending stuff before, so I'm like, okay, well maybe I can depend on him, right? Play my part. I gotta give a little bit to get a little bit, and that's what co-parenting is about. I'm like, okay, are you gonna get the tickets? He's okay, well I'll get them next week. Cool, still gonna have enough time. We were gonna catch the Greyhound to Atlanta. So a week before, I'm like, gonna get the tickets. He's like, yeah, I'll call you back. And not tomorrow, because it was like, he didn't get paid that day. He got to pay like a day after. I was like, okay, cool. No problem. 2 days later, he says, I'm calling him so we can get the tickets. No answer. So now this is like the weekend before Thanksgiving. This is like the Friday before Thanksgiving. I literally called every day up until like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. No answers, no call. At that point, I'm irritated that I, depended on him. Irritated I depended on him. Didn't hear from him. The entire Thanksgiving night. It was just on a happy Thanksgiving. First week of December come. As y'all know, the first week of December is right after Thanksgiving. He called me like, I'm so sorry. Please talk to me. Please. The first few 6 or 7 times I didn't answer. So I answered. I'm like, what? He like, please listen. Please. I said, what do you need? He was like, I'm so sorry for ditching you for Thanksgiving. Woo. I said, listen, that's you. That's you could have spent time with your son. And I was willing to do that for you. He was like, but I got to tell you what happened. Here's what happened, you guys. So at the last minute, for whatever reason, I guess he hadn't talked to his other baby mama, the baby he had on me, during our relationship. He calls her, or she calls him, and somebody gets to talking, and he's like, what y'all doing for Thanksgiving? She like, nothing. He was like, do you want to come to Atlanta? Completely forgets about me and TJ, right? He sends for her to come to Atlanta. She comes to Atlanta. They go to the club. He spend money. She leaves the club with a group of guys. She's never been to Atlanta before. She somehow finds her way back to his like sister. This is the whole story. When she come back, she's like high off drugs. And then when she's high, she's telling him like, she slept with them. They did like lines, which was like cocaine. Like she had a blast. And I was like, oh, so did you get your money's worth? Because you sent a crackhead, which is your baby mama, to Atlanta. You sent for her with the baby, and she came there, run a train on her to get some crack. I said, oh, well, happy holidays. I mean, what you expect me to say? Like, it's no judgment. Like, do you? But you chose her over me once again. It is what it is. So at this point, I'm like, listen, I don't have nothing to say. I just don't have nothing to say. I was like, you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. So this time I'm not really talking to him much. And so he calls me about a week later. He was like, I'm coming home for Christmas. I'm like, okay, great. So when he come home for Thanksgiving, I don't know what happened. When he's about to come home, like a week before he comes home for Christmas, he's pretty much like, I love you, I want to be with you, yada yada yada. And my dumb self is like, okay, maybe we can't work. Now, I didn't tell him that, but we're talking on a regular basis. We're talking every day, 2-3 times a day, and I don't know what got into me. I guess it was just like, oh, I can have my family back. So literally a week before he come, as we're talking days, you know, in between that time, we're talking before he comes for Christmas, I go and get on birth control. He been gone. Now, again, all the stuff that had happened, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 ago, not even in my head. So when he comes for Thanksgiving, he comes for Christmas, he does come over, and I guess I'm not gonna say I guess, I allow him to spend the night, but nothing, I couldn't even force myself to, like, hug or anything like that. And I was just like, this ain't it. I can't do it. So, you know, I played my part, meaning it was like, play my part, but I knew in my soul, like, this isn't what I want. I couldn't do it. So he leaves and go back. He either gets fired from the job or whatever, right? So we're still not together. He's like, well, what happened? You know, we came there, we had a good time. And I was just like, that's cute and all. I said, but in all reality, I was like, there's too much pain and hurt in between us. So nothing. So he's upset because I don't want to get back. He's like, you talking to somebody, you with somebody. I said that doesn't matter. There's no connection, but it can't happen between us. We almost at TJ's second birthday. So, you know, I'm calling like, okay, TJ's birthday coming up. Like, what are you going to provide? What are you going to do? You should, you know, you came in December, you should come. Oh, I'm not working right now. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, and I'm that. And I'm like, so there you go, back to square one. Get you a job, right? Get you this, get you that. So then he tells me, oh, this girl down here says she's pregnant by me and she about to have a baby. And I was just like, dude, you can't win for losing. Because your oldest is only 18 months. And so you got 3 under 18 months. That's a lot. By 3 different women, that's a lot. So I don't even know if he ever found out if that girl in Atlanta's child was his. But it is what it is. Before I call him, in my mind, I'm like, I'm tired of him doing me dirty. I'm tired of it. Okay? Tired of him doing me dirty. So I call him to pretty much get his information for child support. But I didn't tell him that. I called him, told him, I said, listen, I said, I'm doing my benefits for my job, and I need your information to be the beneficiary if something ever happened to me for TJ, because he can't get it unless an adult get it from him until he turn 18. He was like, okay. He's like, I understand that. I said, so I need your name, your date of birth, and your social security number. So he gives me his birth, which I already knew his birthday, you know, I already knew his name and everything. He gave me his social security number. I'm literally filling out the child support papers as we speak. Sure do. Because I knew that I wouldn't be able to get the information any other time. Did I feel a little bad? I ain't gonna front, I felt a little bad. But you're not gonna keep playing with me. You're not gonna keep playing with me. And so right after TJ's second birthday, which he did not come, he did not provide, he didn't do anything, he moves back to Kalamazoo. And I'm like, okay, cool. So he's like, listen, we're not gonna be together. I'm doing me, you doing you. I just want to see my son. Cool. I said, what would help out? I said, well, you know what works for you? Okay, I'll come get him this day through this day, bring him back or whatever. Cool, fine. So it would be about 4 or 5 days he would go with TJ, but then TJ would come back without a coat on. I told y'all TJ has asthma. So you have him walking around here with no scarf around his neck, no hat on his head. He come in here coughing and hacking. No coat. Where's the clothes that I sent? Because you're not providing. So if I didn't send clothes, you wouldn't have nothing for him. Right. Where's the diaper bag? And then you driving around with him without a car seat. So where's the car seat that I sent you with? And this is happening, you know, week after week. So eventually I'm like, okay, I'm cutting you down to 2 days. Because you can't do the little things. And then I'm going to Walmart and I'm buying, you know, regular stuff that if you forget, I'm cool with. I'm buying him shoes from Walmart because you're not providing. You're coming to pick him up in somebody else's car with one of your homeboys, right? And you're not making sure he's safe. That's your job as his parent, right? So then he still wasn't doing it. So I'm like, okay, well, he gonna be with you these days. Can you take him to go get his haircut? You don't have a job. No, can't take him to get his haircut. I still gotta do all that. I said, okay, you know what? So then I cut him down to 1 day and you got to figure it out. Ain't no diaper bag, ain't no clothes or nothing. One spend a night session. Still didn't work. putting my baby on generic diapers, and Terrell was allergic to generic diapers. So I'm like, okay, or TJ was allergic to generic diapers. So I'm like, okay, listen, you got my front yard. So I'm steady working with him for months and months. It was like 90 days. I'm steady working with him. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna keep playing with you. So it was like the last time I allowed him to take TJ to spend the night, he calling me like, you not getting your son back, and trying to make Terrell like TJ say mean things to me over the phone. So like, say your mama stupid, say, or ain't your mama stupid, say yeah, like stuff like that. So at that point I'm like, oh, you want to play dirty? Stop playing with me, because I'll mess your whole word up, not over my child. If you know one thing, don't play with me about my kids, because there will be a complete blackout session and they're going to be planning your funeral. So then I was stressed. I send such and such, which is his other baby mama house, and she'll beat your such and such and such and such. I said, if you send your baby mama over here, I'm going to put her in crutches, and that's on my kid. I promise you. So now I'm being threatened, by woo. I called the police. The police ain't do nothing. I tried to do a restraining order. I finally got a restraining order on him. So he had to stay away from me and TJ. So that's when it really, really got bad. And so I was so upset, so frustrated. And I'm just like, this dude is better off to me dead than alive. Yes, that's what I said. And that's what I meant at that time. Because when I would get TJ back during this time period, I would have to like detox TJ. He would be like a hellion, like a devil's kid. I was to detox TJ by his manners, and you're supposed to sit at the table and eat and all this other stuff. And not saying that they didn't have a table. What I'm saying is y'all know when your kids is off their schedule, they act crazy. But this is so I spent 4 or 5 days detoxing him so that he can go back for 2 and 3 days. And I was just like, So I get the letter saying that that we got to go to child support. So now he pissed. You put me on child support? I can't believe you. Ooh, you put me on child support. So now he really want to fight. So we go to the court hearing of child support, and they tell me that I wouldn't advise leaving your son with him as long as he has a criminal record, meaning warrants, because he didn't come to the court hearing. If he gets stopped with your child, they're going to take your child to Child Protective Services if there's no one to come pick him up. That was it. You ain't had to tell me twice. Okay. So when I told him that, he was like, that's not true. Yeah, I said, well, it doesn't matter. So the judge said, you're not seeing your son unless you're going to sit in my front yard. And you don't want to sit in my front yard, then that's what it is. So at that point, I began to plan my escape. I'm like, I'm going to deal with this frustration, this mess for the rest of my life. And I said, I don't want to do that. I do not want to not be able to have a relationship with another man or move forward in life, because this man is forever going to haunt me. I couldn't sleep. I started losing a significant amount of weight. I know I talked about losing weight before because I was stressed, but I was I was looking over my shoulder because he knew, at the hospital, I had him banned from coming into the hospital because he knew where I worked, he knew where I lived, he knew, he knew everything about me. So I was just like, I got to get out of here. So I started making my escape. I applied to the school that I wanted to, Fashion High School in Chicago, got accepted. I then started looking for housing and, and things like that. And I was like, regardless, I'm leaving. Because if I don't leave, I'm going to kill this man. If I kill him and get caught, he would get custody of my son. Or I don't know who. I'm sorry, he wouldn't get custody of my son. But I don't know who would get custody of my son because I didn't have a will or anything like that. Or let's say I kill him and he doesn't die, he could possibly get custody of my son. Then what? So I just thought it was just best because I really thought about that whole scenario on how I could get away with it. So like I said, I just thought it was the best that I leave. I planned my getaway. I put my 2 weeks into my job because I just felt like I couldn't breathe. I literally felt like a hand was over my nose and mouth and I couldn't breathe with him on my back. I couldn't date. I couldn't have a relationship. I couldn't do none of that. Couldn't live my best life. And I wasn't on that. I needed to move forward. I'm that type of girl. Okay, this is going on too long. This mess, this traumatic situations, this toxicity is going on too long. I'm moving forward. So I literally did not resign my lease. Cleaned out my house, put my stuff in the storage, packed the suitcase, 2 suitcases, 1.5 of the suitcase for TJ, half for me, and I left. And I bought one way ticket to Chicago, and I never looked back. I haven't lived in Michigan since. I moved August 4th, and I did it real low key. I just told everybody, oh, I'm going away to school, and TJ's going with me. But really, I was going away to get it in the mud, and that's my reality. Went away, started fashion high school, was living in the shelter. I literally got off the Greyhound bus and didn't have nowhere to go. But if you want to know about that experience, I talked about that in one of my very, very, very first videos when I started doing YouTube. So that video will be in the description, so go check that video out. So let's fast forward. He doesn't know where we are. He has no idea. And this is all of 2008. So we celebrating New Year's in Chicago, turning up or whatever. And one at that time, my really, really good friends, somebody I consider my best friend, her homeboy, who was her next door neighbor for 20 plus years, had came to visit for New Year's or whatever. And so that was one of my baby daddy's friends. And so that's how he found out I was in Chicago. And so he wanted to talk to me, but I cut that in the butt real quick because I'm like, no. So in February, I met my boyfriend, who was now my husband. And so, I told him I had my son, I told him I had a son and everything like that. So he asked me, was my son's father in his life? And I was like, no. He asked me why. And I was like, well, the situation is really bad, It was very toxic. It was abuse. It was a lot going on, And he was like, well, is the situation really still that bad between you? And I was like, no. So he was like, I definitely would, if things do move forward, I definitely would like for his biological father to be in his life as well as me. And so that kind of gave me a sense, okay, I understand where he's coming from. So let me, try to reach out to whatever. So we end up getting back in, me and, my son's Big Terrell, that's what we call him Terrell, get back in contact or whatever. And so as I told you, I wasn't working. I was going to school. I was doing really well in school, but I wasn't working. So TJ's birthday is coming up the next month, and March is 2009. So he was like, let me put on his birthday. If you come back to Michigan, I'll pay for y'all to get here. Let me put on his birthday. I'm like, cool, let's go. Because I didn't have the money. I had just enough money to get him an outfit, and we pressed forward. So I get to Michigan for my son's birthday. We have it at Chuck E. Cheese. TJ's having a great time. As me is my cousin, and my baby mama, who's one of my best friends named Kiki, my son's godfather, my kid's godfather. His name is Maurice, and then my cousin Janelle. We'll all sit in the booth next to where his family and friends are sitting. So it was no disrespect, no animosity. Everybody's just having a good time. So I'm talking to, the people I'm there with or whatever. A chick walks up who's about 6 months pregnant, in heels and a dress, at Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know where she thought she was going. Was like, hey mom, talking to Terrell, my baby daddy, mama, oh, this car, my T said this car don't walk. And if you know Terrell, you call him T. And so I turn around and look, as well as the people I'm in the booth, we all looking at her like, who is she, right? So I get up and I was like, oh, what's going on? My baby daddy mom was like, let me get this other car. And I was like, well, who are you? And she was like, oh, I'm such and such. Again, I'll tell you why I'm not telling her name. And I was like, oh, you such and such? Again, this is the first time I had ever met the baby mama of the kid he had on me. And I was like, well, I'm TJ's mom. Yeah, she was like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, girl, how? We ain't never met. So you know me? No, you don't. But, I was playing nice. It was my son's birthday. So my son's birthday continued to go well. I let him spend a night with my baby daddy. And the next day, we're going back to Chicago. So I go to the house where his mom was living at. That's where my baby daddy was at, and she was there. So she was laying on the floor, she's pregnant or whatever, and I wanted to step on her, but I stepped over her being nice. Grab my son, whatever. We go back to Chicago. And so at this time, I'm really putting in the effort. Like, I'm like, you know, I get out of school at this time. You know, that's when we back at the house, technically back at the shelter. He just didn't know that. And can you call him at this time? Every day he wouldn't call. So now I was like, okay, well, it would be best if I call you. He like, yeah. So we calling. And I'm at this point, I'm reinforced. Okay, let's call your dad and miss you. Remember you had your birthday, Elmo. You know, let's call your dad. No answer. And so at this point, I'm like, listen, I'm not finna keep playing with you about my son. I'm not finna keep chasing nobody, because nobody had to chase me to be a mama. So I stopped calling, because I'm not gonna keep doing that. Nobody had to tell me what to do. I had to figure it out. I had to learn it, right? And if I didn't know, I had to ask questions. So 2009 goes, he's in and out, flip flop. You know, he called one day, we don't hear from him for 6 months. You know, so on and so forth. 2010 come, same thing, right? I literally would, if I went to Michigan, I would be scared to run into him, like looking over my shoulder, because I don't want to run into him or nobody he knows. 2011 comes. I graduate, and in August of 2011, I go back to Michigan for a week. So I'm like, okay, obviously I reach out to him. I'm like, hey, I'll be in Michigan. Yada yada yada. If you want to see Terrell, TJ, let me know. So during the week I was there, I let him get TJ after work every day. He was there. So then towards the days I was like, okay, we leaving on this day. He was like, do you mind if TJ stay? I called my boyfriend, like, okay. So this time my boyfriend has definitely stepped up to the plate, because he hasn't been there. And so every birthday since that third birthday, TJ fourth birthday, TJ fifth birthday, my boyfriend been there, which is not my husband. So TJ's now calling my boyfriend Papa, because I thought it was we thought it was disrespectful to keep calling him Chris, and so we still allowed the daddy or dad to be for his biological father, because we still wanted that relationship. So like I said, back in August, I talked to my boyfriend. My boyfriend was like, well, what do you think? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna let him stay. I don't want it to ever be like, oh, you know, I tried, you didn't ever let me get time with him. And he was like, you're right. You need to, you know, we want this to work with him, we gotta be a little bit flexible. Cool. So I talked to Terrell, my baby daddy. I told him, I said, well, since I brought him initially, you need to bring him back. If we had a custody order, visitation, things like that, one person would have to fit the bill to bring him, and the other person had to fit the bill to bring him back, right? So I said, my only demand, if it is a minute, anytime I call, I want to talk to him. He's never been out of my presence outside of the hours I'm at school, right? He was like, okay. So I go home on that Sunday. Monday I called twice. I talked to him Tuesday. I talked to him one at a time, and another time he didn't answer. And so then he calls me back and was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to bring Terrell the entire way to Chicago. Can you meet me halfway? And I was like, no, that wasn't the deal. Like, you're expecting me to try to figure it out. You know I don't drive. Everybody knows I don't drive. So you're either expecting me to come the full way to come get him, which isn't fair. So you're going to have to figure out, like I always do, to bring him. He's like, well, I just can't. It just can't work out like that. Why the next day I was in Kalamazoo getting my baby? And I told him, I said, when I get there, you better answer. We meet at this certain spot. I want my baby. I get my, and so the entire time he was with it pretty much for over a week, you know. I was like, I get my baby. He walking around in a tank and a wife beater. Like, that's a shirt. We don't do that. He don't got no belt on. His pants is sack. He walking around police pants. No shoestrings in his shoes. So his shoes flopping off his feet. He ain't got no haircut. And I'm just like, so he been with you for almost 10, 12 days and you could take him to get his haircut? That's a bonding moment for y'all. I hurried up and snatched my baby. Then before I left to come back to Chicago, I realized that I didn't really have enough clothes for him. So I went stores, I shopped, got underwear, socks, tanks, all that. Told my cousin to drop it off at the same place that we picked up, that we dropped TJ's other stuff at. My cousin was going there before work, after work, before work, after work. And so I'm like, well, what happened? I said, where was everybody at? My cousin was coming to drop off clean, new, fresh clothes. I said, and I had other family members that wanted to spend a little time with him. If they just came pick him up for a few hours and took him back home. He like, oh, we moved out the next day. Monica, stop playing with me. Stop playing with me. So at this point, I don't know where my son was sleeping. I don't know what was going on with him. And so I'm just like, you're pathetic, for real. That's pretty much my feeling. At that point, me and my boyfriend was like, okay, we not worrying about nothing else from him. And that was the last time we saw TJ has seen Big Terrell. And we don't talk negatively about Big Terrell in front of, or we don't talk negative about Terrell in front of TJ. None of that. I do ask TJ, like, how does he feel and all this. TJ has told me several times from a young age, like 6, 7 years old, like, my daddy is Chris Rhodes. When he talks about his daddy, he talks about Chris Rhodes. And I was like, well, what about Terrell, in Michigan? And he's just like, he ain't been there for me. He's like, he's like, I don't remember anything but with my dad, Chris. And I was just like, okay. My son still calls his daddy Papa. They have a great relationship. Like, that inconsistency has never worked for TJ. Be that popcorn parent. My son is now 14. The last time I was contacted, which is about a year ago, from Terrell, he told me he wanted to have a relationship with TJ and have him call him. First of all, my son is 14 years old. What he gonna call you for? Do you think the first thing he gonna say is, let me call Terrell in Michigan? No, he gonna come down here and ask his daddy what he want. And that's on period. So then he was like, well, tell TJ if he need anything, let me know. Why would he ask you? Because when he's been consistently for 12 years been asking another man who has been there, first day of school, everything, he's not going to ask you anything. I said, he's 14. So how about you get his phone number, which I'm going to give you, and you text him. He started texting him. That became non-existent. So what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to continue to entertain you being a father to my son. Go make some new babies. Go marry somebody. Be they daddy, because my son has a father and has had a father since he was 2 turning 3. So I was asked, like, why didn't I tell the baby mama name? The reason why I didn't tell the baby mama name was, first thing is, in 2015, there was a post made about me, not tagging me, but it was a post made about me saying that she had been with Terrell for, at that time, had to been 10 years, 9 or 10 years. And so as I count back, 2015, 10 years would have been 2005. I got pregnant in 2005. We got together and got pregnant in 2005. That makes me the side chick. I thought it was entertaining. I guess I'm the side chick. Lo and behold, I'm the side chick, y'all. I guess. Okay, I'll take it. Whatever. Once I got married to my husband, I got engaged in 2012 and then married in 2013. And then, we got pregnant shortly after. He called me every name in the book when he found out. I was every name in the book. I did think it was funny. Y'all, don't judge me. She actually ended up passing away in like April of 2016. I'm still dealing with the same thing. I did want to tell you this, that on Father's Day, as I always do, I made this amazing post about my amazing husband, how he's the greatest father ever to his kids, and my baby daddy wanted to like the post. I don't know if it was to be funny, but I posted to her first day of school picture. Think he liked that? No, he didn't. Baby daddy liked the post about my husband being a good father to his son. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Terrell, TJ, is me and Christopher's son. And that's on period. I can't believe I even reached 500 subscribers to even get to tell this story. And now that I've reached 500 subscribers, it has been a load off my shoulders that I'm done talking about my baby mama story. Because I'm no longer a baby mama. Best believe I'm somebody's wife. And that's on period. If you're not a part of this Sweetie fam, and you're new here, go ahead, click that subscribe button so you can join the Sweetie fam. I am Forever Patra Denise, and y'all be sweet.